Well, we're starting then to read Hegel. I'm not unrealistic enough to expect that you have already read Hegel, since you've just been doing an examination. But you will find that Hegel, while when you get his vocabulary, his style is fairly straightforward reading, initially he seems verbose. There's a little book by Brand Blanchard called On Philosophical Style, the literary style, if you can call it that, of philosophers, in which he suggests that people like Jonathan Swift and George Bernard Shaw would say that Major Andre was hanged. F. H. Bradley, who's a British idealist about the turn of the century, would say that he was killed. One of his colleagues, Bosanquet, would say he died. Kant would say his mortal existence achieved its termination. And Hegel would tell us that a finite determination of infinity had been further determined by its own negation. But if you were listening, you caught in that final statement of what it means to say that Major Andre was killed, you caught an expression of Hegel's dialectic. Listen to it once again. A finite determination of infinity. Yes, the infinite, the absolute, the all-inclusive being. Now, a finite determination of that, that's an individual. Okay, a thesis. He exists. Had been further determined by its own negation. Yes, his existence is negated, giving further specificity to that event, to that period in history. So, to say a person is killed comes, you see, with all sorts of trailing implications. And what Hegel is doing, in simply the simple idea that this guy was killed, is seeing it as part of a much larger picture. Well, it may be a matter of literary style, but quite plainly the philosophical framework that he's working with comes out in his style. So let me start, then, our discussion of Hegel by reminding you of the things that I said last time concerning these German idealists generally. I may not be not unrealistic enough to think that you've already read Hegel, having just done an exam, but I am realistic enough to think that you have likely forgotten what we said about the German idealists last time. So let's pick up a little bit there. I said we were going to get a new metaphysic, absolute idealism, in which every individual event and entity is an expression of the all-inclusive process. So that your self-consciousness is just a passing moment in the self-consciousness of the divine. The divine which is working out its full freedom and self-expression in the course of history. So that Hegel saw, for instance, Napoleon. They were, after all, contemporaries. He saw Napoleon that way, as embodying, in an individual way, distinctive, but in a world-significant way, embodying the free, creative movement of the spirit of a culture in history. Overcoming all opposition in the path. The sovereignty of creative spirit. Now, this is obviously not a mechanistic cause-effect model. It's a process model that sees organic interrelatedness of everything within the all-inclusive one. So if you're talking then about the place of Napoleon in history, Hegel would do it this way, that all history converges on that individual, that event, and all history opens up from that point on. History gives birth to Napoleon, and the Napoleonic event is pregnant with all the future history. So he calls Napoleon a world historical figure. A world historical figure. One in whom the past is summed up, and one that is loaded with future. You get the notion of process and organic interrelatedness. They're very figures of speech, or biological figures. So that metaphysical monism, absolute idealism, a monistic idealism, everything is spirit at work, freedom bursting out all over, is Hegel, very much romanticist. Now, while that's one side of his metaphysic, it is, I think, one which has come to be appreciated more in the 20th century, perhaps the second two-thirds of the 20th century, than it was appreciated in the early part of the 20th century. If you pick up works on Hegel that were written in the period from 1900 to about 1930, 40, you'll find that he's depicted as a rationalist rather than a romanticist. And, well, maybe, but certainly not in the 18th century sense. He's depicted as a rationalist because he says that the real is rational, and the rational is real. So he seems to be saying that whatever you decide is rationally necessary, that's the way reality is, which sounds very rationalistic. But what does he mean by the statement? That's the question. What does he mean by the statement? He means that the real is a creative manifestation. Everything that's real is a creative manifestation. Let's see, I'm not even spelling it right. Manifestation of mind, spirit. That's what the real is. And so, of course, to say that everything that's real is a creative manifestation of spirit is to say, in that sense, it's as rational as spirit is. The real is rational. And to say that the rational is real is simply to say that the categories of thought which structure creative thinking and creative activity, to the categories of thought are also categories of reality. Which is, of course, just what Aristotle thought. That the categories of thought are also categories of reality. So that when we get into his logic in just a little while, we'll be seeing that he spells out all sorts of categories, logical categories. They remind you in a way of Kant's categories. Kant had said the categories of thought are purely subjective, are only categories of thought. Hegel says, fui, are categories of reality. Except that he says it in German.
How does it move from past division to this division?
Well, that's what we'll have to see. Obviously a good question. But the categories of thought are also categories of reality. So keep in mind that the starting point for Hegel is the all-inclusive creative spirit, whose creativity is being freely manifested in the ongoing movement of history. Now, that's the second theme in his metaphysics. There's a third theme. And the third theme, in a way, is an echo of the earliest Greek thought. Now, if you can cast your mind back to about 400 or 500 BC, or alternatively, just the last August and September, you'll remember that even before the pre-Socratics got going, in the Greek poets like Hesiod, to some extent Homer, Sophocles, Aeschylus, there's a recognition that the universe as a whole is an ordered unity, of which a just society, a well-ordered society, a city-state, is a microcosm, of which a just person, with a well-ordered moral life, is a further minicosm. So that you get this macrocosm-microcosm business, and the individual, and a historical state, and the universe as a whole are all made in the same image, ordered unity. Now, that's what underlay the logos concept of the pre-Socratics, and the theory of forms that is developed in Plato. You remember that story, I hope. Yes. Well, Hegel likewise, and he uses the term logos. You see, Hegel sees the individual as a microcosm of the whole. You're a microcosm of what absolute spirit is. You're in the image of God. And the state, and he's thinking of the nation state since this is Romanticism in the 19th century. You see, and the nation state is a further microcosm of the whole, a manifestation of creative spirit at work in history. You see. So when we get to his major work, The Phenomenology of Mind, the German term is Geist, which is perhaps better translated spirit, like the old Anglo-Saxon word ghost, Geist. The phenomenology of spirit, we'll find that his description, while he talks of self first and then society and then culture in a whole historical sense, what he's doing is unfolding, as it were, this mental meandering that traces the dialectical unfolding of self-consciousness, but you never know whether he's talking just of the self, or of society and social consciousness, or of history and the unfolding of history. You see? Simply because what goes on in one is sort of like what goes on in the other, and what goes on in the whole, the individual, the society, the universe as a whole. So that as you read that thing about the master-servant relationship, which I think is the first selection, you'll say, yes, this is about how the individual achieves some sort of self-awareness of position in relationship to. You see. But you could read the same sort of thing about how a nation achieves its own identity in relationship to. And this whole process is the process of the absolute in the dialectical unfolding of things. So keep in mind that analogy to the early Greeks, particularly the microcosm, macrocosm kind of aspect, and the way in which these processes are ordered at the micro and the macro level are always rationally ordered. You see. Rationally ordered. Because the real is rational. And all processes of history are rational in his sense of rational. Yes. What is his sense of rational? Well, that moves us, of course, from his new metaphysic to a new methodology. What we've had in the preceding century or two is the attempt at a demonstrative metaphysic, demonstrative knowledge, deductive reasoning, syllogistic, mathematical reasoning, starting either with self-evident truths or empirical generalizations. And of course, it's that kind of demonstrative metaphysics that both Hume and Kant were so critical of. And in effect, Hegel agrees with their criticism. He's not trying to do that kind of demonstrative metaphysics. He's not trying to prove things. His conception of reason, in other words, is not the conception of deductive proofs. His conception of reason is what you might call thinking, trying to understand, trying to get clear about something. For that 18th century business, reason involved ideas which form propositions, judgments, which are developed further in syllogisms. So that in effect, the unit of thought in the tradition from Descartes on is really the proposition, the judgments we make. And it was because Kant was likewise committed to that, that Kant tried to find the categories that underlie the judgments. Now, the key difference for Hegel is that Hegel makes the focus of thought, reason, not the proposition, but the concept. The gryph, the concept. That's quite a difference. You see, if you're thinking in terms of propositions, you try to see what a proposition logically implies, and you try to state it in another proposition. But if you're thinking in terms of concepts, you're trying to clarify a concept. You're trying to explore conceptual relationships. One concept gives rise to another concept as your mind meanders along. And I use that term meandering intentionally. It doesn't always go in a straight line. Meandering doesn't. It's almost a trial and error, working through various concepts. So that as you try to get an understanding of a particular concept, the concept of being, or the concept of justice, whatever it is, you start with something of an initial idea that first comes to mind. You start, that is to say, with a direct awareness. You're directly aware of some concept. And that initial concept, you begin with, is mediated by a process of reflection in which you say to it, well, yes, no, you're not satisfied with it, you see another side of the picture. So there is a process not only of direct awareness, but of mediation through that reflective meandering, you see, to a clearer, fuller outcome, a clearer conceptualization. It seems to me this is much more descriptive of the way most people think. Isn't that the way it is for you? It is for me? There's a sense in which the kind of reflection which goes on throughout a college career could be seen something like that. You start with some sort of an idea of an education, and then you're confronted with an idea of liberal arts education that you never really assimilated before, and you move from a pragmatic to a purist liberal arts one. And then the two seem to come together in your mind by the time you graduate, and you begin to see all of the possible transfers of learning that are possible from a philosophy major to every occupation you can imagine. Which is true. And that's how we think. Sorting through our ideas. Or if you prefer to say, playing with your marbles. They're trying to get clear about things. So he's much more concerned with this conceptualization. Now, it's that creative thinking process, which is the life of the mind. You see? The life of spirit. And your outward life becomes a manifestation of the inner conceptualization. So that human life is the life of mind, the life of spirit. And in the German sense, that's culture. Yes. The spiritual life is culture. And what's embraced in culture in the final analysis is art, religion, philosophy. Where art gives some sort of sensory image as a way of playing with the concepts. And religion uses symbols in playing with the concepts. It's philosophy that gets straight at the heart of the thing, conceptualizing it. So the whole process is going down there to that. Now, in talking of this new method, notice two things. I called the new method last time phenomenology. Yeah, a phenomenology of mind, of spirit. Phenomenology is descriptive of the description of the logos structure. Logic is a study of what? A study of the logos structure. The logos structure of what? The phenomenon of thinking. The phenomena of the life of spirit, the life of the mind. You see, it's a descriptive process. So you get the new method there, but you also get the new logic, the dialectic. You see? The thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And it's at that point that we can turn to this outline that I gave you just now. Now, you notice that on this outline, you have all sorts of triads. 3 points, and 3 points within each of the 3 points, and 3 points within each of the 3 points that are within the other 3 points that are within the first 3 points. Wheels within wheels are turning. The overall 3 points you see are first, logic. Second, nature. Third, spirit. You see. It's not until you get to spirit that you get the conscious outworking of the concept. What you have in logic, of course, is nothing but the logical structure, if you like, the form, or forms that conceptualization follows. And for that matter, that history follows. Whereas in nature, what you have is the world of natural sciences. Here you have the objective material in which the spirit is manifested at a pre-conscious level. Remember, I called this a gradualism in which there are varying degrees of the manifestation of spirit. Well, look at the logic, and we'll look at the others later on. You notice that everything numbered 1 is a thesis. Everything numbered 2 is an antithesis. Everything numbered 3 is a synthesis. Okay. The thesis is what is immediately apprehended, comes to the mind immediately. The antithesis is the mediating stage. The synthesis is where it comes together with comprehension. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The initial concept is always very abstract. And as comprehension grows, it becomes more and more concrete. So it's a movement from the abstract to the concrete. And the most concrete expression of thought is in culture. Well, let me try an overhead and see if that will help us get on with what he's doing. And this will be a little bit of an exercise in reading Hegel. Is that too small?